Have you ever seen the painting called The Madonna's Humility with the Temptation of Eve? People. It's a painting showing two women. One is dressed in a beautiful blue and reddish, let's say, garments. Is that the right word? She's feeding a child. There's a halo around her. And there is this sense of motherly nature, taking care, even modesty. She is the Madonna. Now, below her is Eve. Eve is in her birthday suit. She's surrounded by darkness, and there is a sense of her using her body for temptation. One is representing virtue, the other one is representing sin, lust. Now, is it two sides of one woman where, the virtue is celebrated and means so much more than the hidden desire for sensuality and lust? Or these are two totally separated women. One is the good, the other one is the bad. And you cannot be both. Now, if you believe that one cannot be the other, do you also believe that a wife or a mother and lust should be separated? Well, let's see how the fairy tale couple, Princess Charlotte and Prince Trey, are dealing with this little dilemma. You know how we do it here. We narrate, we analyze, we often judge, and we try to believe that, yes, we know better and would do better. Hopefully. Charlotte is getting ready for her wedding day with Mr. Trey. And as much as it's exciting times, it's also a bit stressful.
There are 1,400 gowns in this magazine, and I have only seen 600 of them. I need help.
Then why the hell am I here?
Frankly, I didn't want you to feel left out.
But things are slowly coming together.
That's it.
Despite all her bitching, Samantha actually enjoyed being a bridesmaid.
Now, the most exciting thing Charlotte is looking forward to is, well, Trey finally taking her flower.
Excuse me? I finally get to sleep with Trey.
The girls are shook. Charlotte, sweetie, what do you mean? What do you mean you haven't slept with Trey yet? Samantha is confused. Like, you usually take the car out for a test drive before you commit to it, don't you? They don't get it. Charlotte wanted to wait.
You're not a virgin. Well, I am in this relationship, and I think it's romantic.
So, the topic of waiting before you get married. Now, some of you already watched my You series or analysis where we had a guy that was kind of waiting because that's what good boyfriends do, right? And how fucked up the whole situation is when your wait is based on how it will make you look. But here's the thing, as much as Joe from You is a little bit loco, Charlotte, when it comes to waiting before marriage, has kind of the same views. Charlotte is a sexually active person, but now finding her fairy tale prince, she wants to wait. She wants to do it perfectly. Now, here's the thing. We know that Charlotte from the get-go had certain rules and expectations when it comes to intimacy.
If you're serious about a guy, then you have to keep him in a holding pattern for at least 5 days.
And it's all because that's the only way a man will take you seriously. If you put up too fast, you can't be wifey material. Now, the fact that Charlotte is not the type to wait because it makes her feel comfortable, those are her boundaries or her values, but it is because how she will be seen by a man, we could say that it's driven by the potential views Charlotte has when it comes to men versus women and the struggle to actually be equal.
You want to get these guys, you have to keep your mouth shut and play by the rules.
She should be the type that would be a marriage material, someone who is motherly, taking care of things, and God forbid, showing lust. Because Charlotte is a sexually active woman, it is clear that this is not her actual belief and value, but it's again a confirmation that it's all about the image, the representation in society, and how she falls to that. Also, let's not forget that she was quite impressed meeting Bunny and seeing how Bunny is moving in this man-dominated world. Not only that she is a part of it, but the fact that she is actually influencing, in this case, her son, a man. So there is this sense of Charlotte seeking this equality and being seen as worthy, but at the same time, she is a part of the society where patriarchy is even stronger, right? We also cannot forget that when it came to the prenup between Charlotte and Trey, I mean, there was a clause about having boys or having girls, the gender of the children and what it will get.
And
her.
if you have any boys, you'll get another $100,000 free and clear.
Well, how much for girls? Nada.
And we never saw Charlotte actually fighting that, showing that both Trey and Charlotte have some of those beliefs or are driven by those beliefs. We also need to remember that when Charlotte finally decided that she's gonna, have a clear intention to find a husband and AKA not give out too early in the relationship, it worked. Fortunately or unfortunately, her belief proved to be the right thing. And I'm putting it in quotes because, again, it's all driven by the image of how I will be seen rather than this is my actual value. So who's to say that this first confirmation that holding back is a catalyst to a good relationship and a serious relationship wasn't also the catalyst for the perfect marriage? AKA, let's wait until the marriage, because that will show him how valuable I am. Or it can all just be in the pursuit of the perfect fairy tale true story, where two people meet, they are soulmates, everything clicks perfectly, and not only that, the big moment is them sharing a wedding night. But then the reality is, at least on my side of internet, I guess, what I've been served, people who wait until marriage, I mean, it can be quite challenging to actually experience pleasure on that night. Maybe too much expectation or not enough experience. And usually it's the woman, the one who gets the short end of the stick. Because Trey is someone who is accommodating her in this, like he doesn't really have a problem with waiting.
You're very persistent.
I don't want to come in. I want to tell you something. I love you, Charlotte.
Maybe that inspires Charlotte even more to be like, oh my God, I can really have this fairy tale. Whatever it is, we can safely say that Charlotte is not really driven by her own values around intimacy, but rather what it represents, right? Now, you know how it is. Whenever you are doing things or chasing things because it will make you look a certain way, because you will be accepted in a certain way, even though you don't even clock it that that's what you're doing, I mean, it's gonna crash and burn eventually, okay? You see, after her night out with the girls, we see Charlotte knocking on Trey's door.
York, are you drunk?
Yes. Yes, I am, Trey McDougal.
She wants to do it immediately.
Today is officially our wedding day.
So, did it fulfill Charlotte's expectations? Did it confirm that they are soulmates and a perfect match? Yeah, sex is not their strength.
That was unfortunate.
Or at least Trey's. You see, Trey cannot do it. In his words, he can put up the sails, but he cannot bring it to harbor. Charlotte is a little bit uncomfortable. She doesn't really know what to think about it. Comforting or not comforting, it's not the first time it happened to Trey. Yeah, I mean, it happens now and then.
I just didn't think it would happen with you.
But it's all good because what he actually really loves about Charlotte is that she doesn't care that much about sex. Right?
People put too much emphasis on the importance of sex. It's not the most important thing in a relationship.
That's why they waited. Right?
No, what I love about you, it's not just about the sex.
And Charlotte is shooked.
Charlotte couldn't sleep at all that night.
First things first. The fact that she got a little tipsy, which some say brings the barriers down. And the only thing she needed was like the strike of midnight. So it is the wedding day. Clearly, Charlotte is someone who finds sex very important. Now, apart from that, there is another indication that for Trey, or even Charlotte in this case, intimacy or this type of intimacy, intercourse, is not a sacred thing. It's not something that they really value. Because the fact that she gets drunk and wants to do it, and the fact that he accepts it when she is drunk, I mean, wouldn't you want that your first time would be sober? Especially if it's something that you waited for so long and you put value on it. Wouldn't you want that you both, let's say, unite in a sober state? But let me know in the comments below how you felt about this situation. Her being drunk and he saying okie dokie. But the real sour pickle they found themselves in is the difference between their expectations around sex. Clearly, in this very moment, we see that Trey doesn't see it as a big thing, right? There are other things, and we can also understand why, but we'll get to that. And Charlotte, on the other side, is someone who this is quite important to her. So what are they gonna do? Now, one thing that we didn't really see Charlotte going through is feeling like that there's something wrong with her because Trey couldn't perform, let's say. At least it didn't show it as something that she would feel like, oh my God, am I not attractive enough? Or, we didn't really see any of that. I don't think so. But I do want to address it because I think that is the most common thing. If a man rejects you, if he cannot perform in some way, like the first thing you're thinking is there is something wrong with me and I am not good enough. Now, why does that happen? Even if you are someone who believes that, a virtuous woman is someone of purity and this and that, right? Not having sex is the thing that gives you value. We've all grown up with the idea that men want sex, right? With the idea that women want love and men just want to F. Because we learned that that is almost their basis in some way, when you get rejected, it's automatically on you because there is just no way that a man couldn't do it because they're all about it, right? There is so much stigma around stock, let's say, that these beliefs creep into also feeling like it's your fault by default if a man can perform in some way. Again, I'm not saying that that is the case. I'm just saying that there are still this, subliminal or hidden beliefs that we might have. And they're actually coming from patriarchy. If men in whatever way cannot perform, it's probably because it's women's fault. I mean, the whole Adam and Eve thing, right? But maybe I'm going too far now. I'll get canceled. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where a man cannot have sex with you, even though it hits you, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Be aware of that false belief, and it will be easier to also, talk with your partner and kind of both of you together try to figure shit out, okay? Just don't take it as automatically there's something wrong with me. And like I said, we don't really see Charlotte falling into that depression, which we would see Carrie doing. Exactly what happened with Aiden, right? When Aiden wanted to wait, Carrie's whole confidence dropped because the fact that a guy does not want to be with her, how bad is she, Now, in this case, we also learned that Trey knew that he has a problem with it or that it happened now and then.
Sometimes intercourse just doesn't do it for me.
But he didn't really think that it will happen with Charlotte, which shows that Trey himself is living a fairy tale. Is living some kind of magical solution that will happen when he meets the right person. Almost like Charlotte. When I meet the right guy, he's gonna be all and he's just gonna be perfect in every way and he's gonna make me his wife. Trey, on the other hand, also seems to be living in that sense. If I'm gonna be a husband material, if I provide what I need to provide as a man, which is safety, security, and treating my lady good, doesn't matter if I have some problems, this will be all resolved. The fairy tale will happen. Now, the moment when we have a lesson on the importance of transparency and honesty and communication is when the outcome of Charlotte's waiting and Charlotte being new virgin in this relationship, but never expressing that sex is important to her, but she wants to do this because, I don't know, XYZ, is when Trey now thinks that she doesn't find sex important. Charlotte's attempt to be a wife material, to finally get that ring, to be seen as worthy and equal, backfired with now her future husband thinking that she does not care about sex. Not only that, fed into the false belief of women not being sexual people. Did you hear me? Charlotte potentially trying to be perceived as equal and as worthy with withholding sex, even though she likes that, backfired in taking away this possibility of actually having sex as an important part of her life and her marriage. Even though she actually wants it. People, when we try to pretend that we are something we are not, be prepared that we might need to let go of that thing that we actually are forever if we want to keep up with the facade. Let's be clear. I'm not saying that it is correct what Trey assumed. But I am saying when you are not transparent for your own good, showing up for yourself, you are risking people, taking things in their own way. Because for Trey, it was perfection that Charlotte didn't even want it because he knew he had a problem. And, if it happens, she won't care. It's so easy that things just fall into our perspectives and let us dismiss things, ignore things, because that's much easier than to actually, express something like conversations about sex. Now, altogether, despite this being a talk about or a problem about intercourse, what we can say that this is also a representation of what happens when two people come together based on the fairy tale, based on all the box checked, based on both of them being ready, but there is no real connection between the two of them. Charlotte presented herself as a traditional wife, a worthy woman of marriage, while Trey hid his problems and also presented himself as a good man to be a husband and a perfect groom. It's more about the idea of perfection rather than really mutual understanding. But people, now it's the wedding day. Will she go through with it or not? Charlotte is beautiful. She's wearing her white gown and overall she's just perfect. Samantha starts walking down the aisle, followed by Miranda and then the maid of honor, Carrie. But as Carrie steps to walk down,
Carrie, I have to tell you something.
she calls her back and she needs to have a little combo before she goes down to say yes.
Trey can't get it up. What?
Carrie is wait, what is happening right now?
We slept together last night and he couldn't get it up. Was he drunk? No.
You know what? Maybe it was just the wedding jitters, right? It was, the nerves before they tie the knot, and maybe that was the reason, right?
He says it happens sometimes.
Carrie is, really struggling to calm down Charlotte. So she's like, you know what? Maybe he just jerked off before you came and he was too embarrassed to tell you. So, he couldn't go 2 times. But Carrie also sees that Charlotte is scared, that she doesn't really know what to do. And she lets her know that if she does not feel that this is right, they can walk away.
Charlotte, sweetie, if you don't want to go through this, you don't have to.
If Charlotte actually has doubts, who gives an F, they will go and people will just have to deal with it. So if she needs to leave, Carrie will go with her. Honestly, I really, really appreciated this because I would expect any big event, usually, and you have doubts, usually people will try to focus more on preserving the image, preserving the, oh my God, what will all these people say, than actually listen to you. So I loved Carrie for this, that she actually said, look, Charlotte, if this doesn't feel okay, let's walk away. It is okay. Charlotte starts looking around. She looks at Trey and she looks at Bunny, and both of them are a little bit like, what's happening? She takes a deep breath.
No. I'm getting married.
She is gonna get married. She loves Trey and Trey loves her. So, she is not gonna let this little problem take away her fairy tale ending. She walks down the aisle. And Charlotte finally becomes a wifey. And she finally had her dream wedding. Not so dreamy situation in bed, but. So here's the thing, from my two eyes, okay, Charlotte is effed. Okay, Charlotte is just, I would not want to be in this situation. She's with this man. She loves him. She took some decisions that were not in her favor. He took some decisions that were not in his favor. And now she's literally faced with what? Am I not going to marry him? And I will look like a bee because I'm shallow and because we couldn't, have sex, now everything is gone? Or do I actually trust that, we are husband and wife, we love each other, and we will find a way for this to work? That's also the thing that made me feel a little bit sus. You see, maybe it's the show, or maybe it's again an indication of the perfect marriage and the perfect fairy tale. The fact that Charlotte even had doubts in this moment, because if we think about Charlotte being someone who values marriage for the marriage, we would expect that she wouldn't get so freaked out about the situation. She was just, understand that yes, people might have problems and they will figure it out, right? Like it's okay. Now, because she reacted very much like, oh my God, should I even do this? I think it played more into the fact that she realized Trey doesn't find sex that important and that he expects her not to find it important. In that moment, she was maybe more dealing with the situation of, do we really know each other? Like, will we actually listen to one another? Or am I getting into something that is just good on paper? There is also this idea that she truly believes in the right man, the perfect husband. And it's almost like having this problem means that he's not the perfect husband. Finding out that there are problems in bed, it's almost like, wait. People, how can this be my perfect husband? How can this be my soulmate? So it freaks her out. But again, it's just showing that it's about the idea of who Trey is rather than who Trey actually is. It's about the idea how their relationship should be versus what the relationship actually is. Who knows? Maybe she's thinking, Biz, if I am a wife material because I wait, he has to be a husband material because he's good in bed. Who's fooling who here now? But if I go back to the fact that she saw how Trey thinks that Charlotte doesn't find this important, it could be again this sign of inequality, or even this belief that for a woman, sexuality is not important. Now, does Trey believe that because Charlotte waited, or because he has his problems? We don't know, right? But we also know that he does have some, patriarchal founded beliefs. Her final decision to go through the wedding, it's just a mix of love.
To love him, and he loves you.
Like she genuinely has love for him, but also rebellion. It's almost like, fuck this, I'm not gonna let this ruin my fairy tale wedding or what I deserve to have.
Go.
She was getting married, and not even a low libido could stop her.
I am not gonna let this little problem take away everything that I worked so hard for. In a way, maybe this was also Charlotte's way of trying to get past the shallowness and trying to see beyond just the perfect fairy tale marriage. And she wanted to prove to herself and also to Trey that no, she is really in this for the two of them, for the marriage, for the wife and husband union. And whatever they are faced with, they are gonna figure it out. But Charlotte's honeymoon was dry, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. They tried 2 times to get their marriage consummated, but it did not happen. And then they became so frustrated, they just played golf. Now, her friend Carrie is like, sweetie.
Impotence is a common problem.
Charlotte is like, shut your mouth, Miss Bradshaw.
My husband can't be impotent. He's gorgeous.
Carrie gives up. I mean, maybe she doesn't really know how to help Charlotte in this situation, but maybe it is difficult to help someone when they don't want to accept the simple fact that maybe their husband is not perfect.
All right then. Glad you solved that.
Charlotte, though, is not giving up. She is back at home and she is waiting in bed for Trey. Now, Trey is being a good, supportive husband. You see, he is taking over the bureaucracy when it comes to their wedding.
You see, I've listed the gifts, who it's from, and the
So
addresses.
Charlotte would have an easier time of sending out the thank you cards. Now, what surprises us, or what got me a little bit like, what's going on here, is that Charlotte is kind of over the whole wedding thing.
Oh, I can't wait till all this wedding nonsense is behind us and then we can relax.
She cannot wait for things to just pass so they can actually focus on being husband and wife. Bess, wouldn't you expect Charlotte to be all over the process, the full process when it comes to wedding, sending out the thank you notes? You would expect Charlotte picking out the perfect cards and being on point. That's what a good married wife does. Clearly, when a bigger problem is on the horizon, or maybe when the ring is on, she does not have time to think about that nonsense. She tries to entice Trey a little bit more. She's kissing him on the neck and she's trying to invite him to bed, but Trey is focused on his work. Now Charlotte gives up and she says, Trey, we have a problem.
I know. Somehow we've got 2 serving platters and we only registered for 1.
Clearly, Trey is oblivious to Charlotte's needs, so she just, takes the L. These are 2 people on total different opposites. While Charlotte is actually seeking a deeper connection with her husband, Trey isn't. Like, he's good. And again, we get a confirmation that Trey was okay with waiting when it comes to sex because this is really not that important to him. Like, he doesn't even clock that Charlotte wants it. Now, what is also interesting is, we are used to Charlotte expressing herself, okay? We've never seen her as someone, or at least I don't remember seeing her as someone who would shy away of expressing what she wants, what she needs, what she finds respectful, and what she doesn't. And she also does it in this case, right? She clearly states to Trey that they have a problem. But then she backs out. She doesn't really persist in actually talking about the situation, which hints at the fact that Charlotte herself is struggling with how to actually have this conversation. A part of her maybe thinks that as a good wife, she shouldn't pressure her husband. Then she might think that this is just a sensitive topic. In general, it's not something that you just feel comfortable talking about. I mean, we've seen Charlotte many times not feeling comfortable when Samantha would talk about her sex escapades, right? So, it's not the most chitty-chatty topic to talk about. And the fact that she probably created this buildup of how special their connection is gonna be, and when it didn't happen, like, that can have an emotional toll on you, right? Like, you just feel helpless. But again, apart from this being an intercourse problem, let's say, it is again clear that between Charlotte and Trey, there is a lack of emotional connection. We can even say that Charlotte was so focused on being the wife material, and potentially Trey was focused on being husband material, that they never really understood the red flags that were all over the two of them. Like we talked about it before, right? The alrighty attitude from Trey, or how his mother is influencing him, how Charlotte started to influence him because then, oh my God, she can get this sense of power. The whole prenup thing. Like they were just focused on what is the right thing, that they missed everything that is wrong with the relationship. But now when things are settling down, when that box is checked, now it shows. Charlotte starts to slowly accept that Trey is impotent. But what they need to figure out now, meaning her and Carrie, is if it's a physical or emotional problem. And it's a simple test. She puts a paper ring around Trey's sails, to see if during the night the paper will break, which means the sails can go up. And then she knows that it's unemotional. Charlotte is nervous doing this, but she is also like, I need to figure this thing out. And especially when Trey does not even want to talk about it, because clearly he is embarrassed. But when she wakes up in the morning and finds out that it's not physical, oh, bitch, she is happy.
Morning.
She loves her husband. The happiness, though, dies quickly because it means it's emotional. And how the fuck is she supposed to deal with that? It's another night, and Charlotte is trying again, but Trey just avoids it.
Maybe it's time we really thought about some options, like Viagra.
Viagra?
What do you mean, Viagra, Charlotte? Do you know that that's I don't know which cause of death with people with heart problems? And for him, heart problems run in the family.
Now I'm tense. I'm going for a run.
He picks up his stuff and he needs to go out for a run because this is stressing him out. Clearly, Trey has problems, and clearly it is important to Trey. Why would he get stressed and anxious and upset to the point that he needs to go out and release this tension when it's not a big deal? Clearly, it's a big deal, and clearly it makes him feel some type of way. Trey himself probably feels inadequate as a husband when it comes to this situation. So his solution was that Charlotte won't care and this will all be good. I will not have to see myself as not good enough, because Trey himself has an idea of what a good husband should be like. None of them is being real with themselves, which, ta-da, that's why we're here. It seems that the talk reminds Trey of how, despite doing everything right, despite being the perfect husband material and now the perfect husband, despite being the cream of the society in some way, there is some problems that he actually has, and he does not know how to accept that or deal with that. It's like, no, I don't see anything. I mean, his attitude of, alrighty, is maybe what he actually expects from Charlotte right now. To just say, alrighty. The same way Charlotte's fairy tale was broken is literally the same way Trey's fairy tale is broken. Trey is running away from his problems, and Charlotte is like, Biz, if he's doing it, I can do it also.
I can't deal with Trey.
And she is off to meet her girls in LA. The thing is that Carrie is the only one who knows about Trey and Charlotte. And she's not really ready to reveal it to the other two girls. So she's just like, I'm just here to have fun. But when the conversation becomes about fake things, well, Charlotte can't take it anymore.
My marriage is a fake Fendi.
Excuse me?
She knows that they look like a perfect couple from the outside and this is the perfect story, but it's all fake. It's all a sham. It's not special. He cannot even get it up. Now, Miranda and Samantha are shooked. They're like, what do you... It's been a month since they got married. But then also, they are good friends.
It's only been a month. Hey, he hasn't seen Brazil.
Maybe if you spice it up a little bit, it's gonna help. The problem is emotional, not physical. But overall, she does not want to talk about it anymore. She just wants to have fun. So they go to a Playboy mansion. Now, Charlotte is having fun and she's mingling and she's actually having conversation with a nice guy, it seems like.
God, it is such a pleasure talking to an intelligent woman for once.
Side note, if a man compliments you by putting other women down, run, bitch, run. Okay, it ain't the compliment you think it is. If a guy says, oh my God, finally someone intelligent, it means that in general, he thinks that women are stupid. It makes you feel good, but it's because you're a pick-me. Knowingly or unknowingly, if you feel good when someone compliments you in that way, it just means that you are falling into the I'm not like the other women. Yay! Charlotte, though, she's impressed and she loves that he actually talks.
It's so nice to be with a man who talks.
I guess her and Trey don't talk. Now, does she mean that in general or just because of the situation right now? We don't know. But clearly, she's missing that.
Hey, let me buy you some booze.
Also, this fairy tale ended and Charlotte realizes that, you know what? It's good to be married and I'm gonna work this shit out with my man. So we see her going through the solution of all solution or the provider of all solutions, the internet. And she comes across a medical solution to their problems. They can turn Trey's sales into Trey's steel sales, robo sales.
$8,000 worth of hydraulics that could turn Trey into the bionic man.
And she feels a little bit hesitant to show it to Trey, but what's a girl to do? So when they're getting ready to go to bed, she's like, look, what do you think about this? Trey takes one look and he's like, are you serious?
You can't be serious.
What other options do we have?
Now, I'm going to be honest, the solution is a little bit out there. Okay, let's calm down. But honestly, that's not the point. The point is how Trey is handling this and what it reminds me of. It's something that just boils my blood. Have you ever experienced trying to have a conversation with someone about, or with your partner, let's say, about something that you want or something that you want to address, and they just shut it down? They're just like, no, case closed. And you are boiling. And at the same time, you cannot get this person to actually talk to you, to actually listen to you. It's almost like this, wait for it, parent-child relation. Have you ever experienced that? It boils my blood. And the thing is that I don't resent it only because, how can you be like that and just shut someone down and treat them as a child? But more the fact that I would stay. I would clearly understand that this is wrong. This is not how two people should communicate in a relationship. I would feel like a freaking child. But at the end of it all, I would just accept that that's the end of it because they said so and I can huff and puff and it's not going to make a change. Forgetting that I have the power this time to make a change. I see this coming from the parent-child trauma, like so many things. Right? If you grew up in an environment or with parents that would, let's say, frequently, or maybe it's not even needed to be frequently, say no to your needs, to your wants or desires without any explanation. And it would be just like, no, because I'm your mom or because I'm your father or because I am this figure, and experience that as an adult. It's almost like it pushes you back in that feeling that you're a child. And at the end of the day, you accept the authority in this case, right? So before, when your parents said no, that was the end of it all, right? Doesn't matter how you felt about it, it was a no. You now start to almost adapt the same mentality with someone who is supposed to be equal to you, right? Who has no power like that. Because parents did have that power, right? If your parent tells you, no, you cannot go out, or no, I'm not going to buy you this, and that's it, period, blah, blah, blah. it's kind of like, okay, I can do whatever I want, but it's a no. At least that was my case. I was never the type that would sneak out and blah, blah, blah. And I wish I was. My life would be more exciting, but no. That's why I have problems today. But what I'm thinking is when then someone who is supposed to be equal has that same approach and it's like a no, and they shut it down and they don't even want to talk about it, it's almost like I totally forget that I am an independent individual person and I'm freaking wiping my ass on my own. It is in my power to address it. And if this person is not meeting me in any way, I most definitely should walk away because it can only get worse. Because once, maybe it's human nature, we get used to certain patterns. Once we figure out how to achieve certain things, it can very well play into keep on doing it. If your partner figures out that if they say no to you, and even though you get mad and this and that, as long as they hold that no, you're eventually gonna let it go, why would they ever change? Maybe I'm a little bit delusional, but I would expect that if someone is in general a good, healthy partner, they wouldn't even have that approach. But the second they have that approach, like that's, whoa. That means that you position yourself as an authority when it comes to me and my needs. And this is how I see Trey in this moment. He's like, no, and he shuts it down. He's shutting down Charlotte like she is in some way underneath him. And if he feels uncomfortable, she should not address it. The other things that could feed into this is just the usual ones, right? We should have like t-shirts with these. The fear of abandonment, being alone, the fear of rejection, and in some way, just, getting used to that your needs are never met and being more of a people pleaser. So when someone doesn't want to talk about things, you're just like, okay, we don't have to. What we should be more comfortable doing is if the other person doesn't actually want to talk about things, I have the right and the autonomy to walk away because you are showing me how you are treating me. And if any of you are watching this and you have that attitude, you need to reevaluate. And I hate to say it, but your partner should walk away from you. Because maybe if they walk away, you're going to start thinking about how are you actually treating another person? Where does this entitlement come from? Okay. Now, if I go into the general social construct when it comes to men and women and the expectations, we can also clearly see that Charlotte is probably acting in this way where she tries to open the topic but then pulls back. First, like I said before, maybe the topic of sexuality is a little bit sensitive and delicate. And the second is that women are usually thought to be understanding, patient, accommodating, because we often are marked as nagging or annoying. And she tries to, separate herself from that. So she has this more patient of approach. But like I said in the previous example, also this does not actually help our partners if that's what we want to do. If we want to see that our partners are not doing that on purpose, then you need to help them some way. But you can only help them if you confront it and you stand by your ground. Trey finally decides to go with Charlotte to a therapist to figure this thing out. And he is visibly annoyed, and it does not help with the advice that this therapist is giving them. They should name their privates.
Are you quite sure you went to Yale?
If they name their parts in a fun way, it will make it easier to actually talk about it. Now, despite both of them, Charlotte and Trey, being a little bit like, this is interesting, Charlotte is quick to name her part Rebecca. Simple, classy, yet fun. Trey is a little bit more hesitant, but Charlotte tries to help him, he loves sales, right? So what about canoe?
Canoe doesn't go with Rebecca. How about, schooner?
Now, people, you know, I researched what the F are we talking about here? What even is a schooner? And why did Trey have this reaction? And from my understanding, this is it. So canoe is a simple water transport. You know what the canoe is, okay? So we could say that that just felt a little bit too basic for potentially a Rebecca. Someone that maybe Trey puts on a pedestal. Maybe he puts Charlotte in some kind of pedestal way, right? So he needs to match that. Not only match that, maybe he needs to make sure that everyone understands that his sales are strong and sturdy and I don't know, but basically a big boat. And I hope I got that right. That makes him feel a little bit more comfortable. Now, the fact that Trey wanted something that is more fitting to Rebecca could be also hinting at, again, this need for an image, for how they represent themselves to others. He's not looking at this, okay, let's name it so it's playful. He's focusing on what will fit together, like what will look like the good match, and canoeing it. Now, the therapist also gives them homework. In the evening, before they go to bed, they should lay beside each other and they should just talk about their fantasies. Now, Charlotte is ready. She has perfect fantasy. You see, she is a princess in a fairy tale forest and she's riding a unicorn. But then she spots a pirate.
A prince in disguise.
And he takes her down and he rips off her fancy garments and he puts his schooner into her Rebecca. It's Trey's turn. Where are you?
I'm in hell.
Trey's in hell, okay? This is too much for him. He is a respected surgeon and this just does not feel right. It's time for Charlotte to just accept that Trey is not a person. But Charlotte is not giving up. No.
We're married now. Rebecca and Schooner belong together. They need each other. Please.
And they're gonna do this. It is okay. Trey, with his appreciating eyes, looks at Charlotte.
You are a fairy princess. I don't deserve you. I'm sorry.
And he lays back in bed. It's in the middle of the night and Charlotte gets woken up. Like she hears some noises. She sees that Trey is not in bed and it sounds like is he crying in the bathroom? Like she feels bad. She didn't want him to feel bad about this. She walks up to the bathroom. She opens the door and Trey is releasing himself. The reason is not their problems. The reason is
Jugs.
Yes, Biz. Trey is masturbating to big boobs in the bathroom. So much for him not being a sexual person. Now, Charlotte is shooked. Sh to the K to the D. That's not how you spell it, but okay. Do you? They're back at their therapist. They explained what happened. And you know what? This is actually positive.
At least we know he isn't gay.
Trey is again annoyed. Why do they need to even talk about this? And why is it a big deal? It has nothing to do with his wife. Him jerking off to Jugs has nothing to do with his lovely wife. And that's the problem. That's the whole thing. Maybe Trey should bridge the gap between sexual and wife. He needs to see Charlotte as a part of that so he can then perform. And luckily for Trey, Charlotte knows just the way. She finally figured out how to use those unusable wedding photos. She puts her face all over Jugs, bridging the gap between wife and wedding and virtue and Jugs and lust. So when it comes to the attitude towards between Trey and Charlotte, we learn that clearly Charlotte is all about romance and fantasy, and she is connecting to that, right? Her story is about being on a unicorn and then, a pirate, which is somehow like forbidden, not for princess, takes her, but he's actually a princess in disguise, so it's okay, right? It's all of this fantasy, but in constraints of what is still appropriate for her. Trey, on the other hand, is showing the Madonna, I'm going to use lust complex But there's another word you put there, you can Google it. So this is a complex that men might have where they cannot connect wife with sex. So it's almost like if a woman is virtuous and good, motherly like, I cannot see her in a sexual way. While when it comes to sex, I can only do it if I objectify the person, but I cannot objectify my wife. Does that make sense? Even when he says that he doesn't deserve her and that she really is a fairy princess, again shows this disconnect, right? He's putting her on a pedestal. She's perfect, but he cannot really attach that there's also a sensual side to her because for him, sex is more hidden, messy, nasty in a way. The reality is, or my understanding is, that it comes from patriarchal structures and even misogyny. If you are less than me, it means that you are sexual and therefore I can, have my urges on you or release my urges onto you. It's almost like they need to degrade someone down, separate them from a good person, a good woman, a loving woman in order for them to feel attracted to this person, which ties into the historical views or fears, even in religion, the Eve thing, how women will deceive men with their sexuality and witches do that because men are weak to that, So it all kind of comes back to then how in this case, Trey is shown to treat Charlotte versus women in a magazine. Now, feminism even suggests that this is all done so men can keep this power over women, right? As long as a woman won't be fully herself, right? She will suppress certain things, then they can have control over them. If a woman will be, raised in being virtuous and all about the man and blah, 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 then they can keep them under control. But if a woman would be raised in the same way, sensuality and virtuous and everything is a part of her, then she would be more fulfilled, right? And that would give her more strength. And we do know that Trey, like I mentioned before, does have this tendencies, right? With the prenup, we saw it. Boys or girls don't get anything. So there is something to that. Charlotte understanding Trey, Charlotte seeing that, okay, we have a problem. You don't really know how to connect the physical attraction to the emotional connection. So we're going to try to work it with these pictures and still using the magazine. She's almost creating this bridge between princess and a sexual being. So Charlotte with jugs. But did the fairy tale couple resolve their issues? Well, we'll see about that. Let me know in the comments below, how do you feel about this situation? How do you see Trey's behavior? How do you see Charlotte's behavior? And did it anything remind you of maybe your own behaviors in some senses? Where do you need to reevaluate? But whatever you do, remember, trust your individuality. Oh, my hair is all over the place. Look at this. You see, this hair also wants to trust their own individuality. That's how you do.